My friends, welcome to this episode of the Outdoor Gear Review. I hope you all are doing well. What I have here is the NatureHike Titanium Mini Stove, wood stove. I've been testing this out for many months now and I'm ready to share with you all my pros and cons, and whether or not I recommend this product. If you purchase this stove, this is what you're going to receive. A canvas storage bag, which is a little bit too small for this stove. It is somewhat of a chore to get this in and out of this bag. In addition to the canvas bag, you get this lid, which also acts as an ashtray. And of course, you get the stove itself. Up at the top, you have 3 pot supports. Down at the bottom, you have 3 legs. And you can see why the stove goes over the ashtray. It protects the ground from falling embers and so on. As far as the materials go, this stove is made from titanium. And you have a 12A canvas bag. When it comes to the dimensions, when it's stored, it's 5.7 inches by 4.9 inches. When it's set up, it's 6.5 inches tall, 5.5 inches wide. And that's with the legs fully extended. The stove weighs an impressive 6.5 ounces. The bag is 2 ounces. And it has a 22-pound load limit. The retail price of this is around $62. But at the time of filming, it can be found for $50 on Amazon. Or $43 on AliExpress. It should be mentioned that there's another company that's offering the exact same stove, and it runs $45 on Amazon. Now that I have my water going for coffee, let's go over the pros and cons that I've observed while testing this out over the last couple of months. So right off the bat, this is ultra light. 6.5 ounces for the stove itself. That's impressive. The storage bag is heavy, and I would recommend ditching it, finding an alternative. While I'm glad the company included one, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. The stove itself is ultra light, but yet the storage bag is really heavy. Just doesn't add up, you know what I mean? Overall, folks, the construction of this stove is excellent. There's no sharp edges, nothing like that. As far as the build quality goes, it's very good. If you've seen any of the adventures that I've done with this stove, you know that I love the fact that it could be used as a small fire pit. Overall, this stove is of a good size, so you can use it to cook on, boil water, or you could put large pieces of wood inside of it and use it as a small fire pit. That's the definition of versatility, and I like that. Another pro for this stove would be the overall size of this. I'm talking about capacity. You could put quite a bit of fuel inside of this stove and have long duration cooks, which is nice. Additionally, because the stove is made from titanium, it cools down very, very fast. As far as the water goes, it is done. Oh yes. All right, it's coffee time for me. Cheers, everyone. I tell you what, since we're done with the water, let me show you all how you can use this as a small fire pit. Now that I have this loaded up, here in a few minutes, we'll have a nice fire coming out of the top here. Now, because of the size of this really is what I would call a personal fire pit. Like 1 to 2 people, pretty close. If you set up some sort of like reflector wall, this thing is really going to pump out some heat and you're going to feel it. But I love that versatility of this stove. You can cook, you can heat, you can boil, you can use it as a fire pit. I was a little bit concerned about long duration burns with this titanium, but it's thick enough that I've had no issues. And I have run this for hour after hour after hour with no issues, no warping, nothing like that. As far as performance goes, it's good, but it's not great. And I'll talk about that in the cons section. As far as the price goes, I would say for this product, it's fair. When you factor in how versatile it is, the overall performance, it's not a bad price. You can see now after a few minutes just how much fire and flame is coming from the top of this. I mean, it's putting out a ton of heat. It's nice, it really is. As I said before, it really is a versatile system. As far as the ash plate on the bottom, it does exactly what it was designed to do. It catches ashes, embers, and so on. And that prevents the ground from being burned and scarred. The next pro that I have deals with the pot supports and the legs. They are of a good quality. I've had no issues with them getting stuck or anything like that. They move very smoothly, up and down. Now everyone, let's move over to the cons that I have with this system. So the first con is, as I mentioned before, the storage bag is not really that great. It's a little bit small. That's pretty minor. An issue that I have with this stove that's not minor is the overall performance. I mentioned before that it's good, but it's not really great, and that is due to this. The pot supports don't extend high enough away from the stove itself. So you may have noticed when I put the kettle on this, all of a sudden there's a ton of smoke, and that's because all of a sudden there was a limit to the amount of oxygen that was available. There are two things that are limiting oxygen when you put a kettle on, for example. One, the pot supports are too close to the top of the stove. There's not enough space there for adequate oxygen to get to the fire. Two, there's no air holes that surround the body for this stove. If there was, this stove would be a rocket, no doubt about it. The performance would be twice as good, 3 times as good. There are air holes at the bottom, and they do a good job, but this stove needs more oxygen to burn really, really hot. Ultimately, everything will burn, the smoke will go away, but it takes time. If NatureHike would make a few modifications to the stove, the overall performance of this would be quite a bit better. Now, of course, you could make some modifications yourself. You could grab your drill, put some holes in this, and that would help quite a bit. The last con that I have for this stove is size. As you all can see here, this stove is fairly large, and it does take up quite a bit of space inside of your backpack. This isn't a folding system, it doesn't lay flat, and that needs to be kept in mind. You may have noticed that I have a tarp set up here, and that's because the conditions have changed like every 5 minutes. We're going into spring, and it's spring chaos here in the mountains. So like 1 second it's sunny, the next second it's raining. It's been on and off all day long. Now also, the temperature is dropping, which makes having this fire going so nice. I mean, I could just stand right here, enjoy that heat, it feels amazing, put my chair next to it. Oh yeah. That's what I love about this stove. It's not perfect, not by any means, but it's good. It's very good. With a few improvements, I think NatureHike could take this from a 7, 8 to a 10 easily. To summarize my review of this stove, everyone, I could say this: I would have no problem with purchasing this again. I guess the biggest question is whether or not you should buy the NatureHike version or the other version. As far as appearances go, they look to be exactly the same, which is a little bit of a shame. At first I was hoping that NatureHike had designed an original product, but that's certainly not the case. The other version of the stove looks to be exactly the same as this one, and it's less expensive. So that's a win. I'm not telling you all to buy it because I haven't used it. I don't know. I can only talk about this one. And ultimately, I do like this stove. The rain's gone, but the wind's picking up, so I might as well say goodbye. For this episode, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. Make sure to comment down below and share your thoughts. What do you all think about this stove? It's awesome, man. The wind's not awesome, but the stove is pretty good. If you have found this episode helpful, hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel quite a bit. Everyone, I appreciate you all. Here's the rain. I'm out of here. Strength and honor. Bye for now.